Early in my speaking career, I got asked to keynote a youth leadership event. 1,000 of the highest performing, smartest kids in the state packed into one auditorium. I'd prepared. I'd built what I thought was the perfect thing. A modern deck full of video, fast-paced, the kind of presentation that was going to prove, man, I belonged on that stage. And that stage was enormous. Half circle, stadium seating wrapped all the way around, spotlights on me, and a screen across the back so big it felt like the side of a building. My first slide is glowing up there. The remote's in my hand. My energy is high. This is the moment. I advance to slide 2, the one with the first video. The screen goes blue. The computer drops the projector. It doesn't come back. I can see the silhouette of the tech person off to the side, frantic, and in that half second, I have a decision to make in front of 1,000 kids who are watching me, not the screen. And here's where 15 years in television news walk onto the stage with me. In TV, the feed dies, the guest no-shows, the prompter freezes, and you keep talking. Because dead air is the one thing you are never allowed for, that's never allowed for the audience. My body already knew that. I did on that stage what I'd have done on the air. I started calmly walking them through what they were about to see. I didn't apologize. I just rolled with it. Every single time a video was supposed to play, that computer dropped the projector again. Eventually, I had them just actually kill the computer and the projector altogether, and I filled the gap with stories. I honestly don't remember most of the rest of that talk. And I think that's the most important detail in the whole story. So hold on to it. We're going to come back to me not remembering. One more thing I do remember with perfect clarity. It was a Dell computer. I made a vow on that stage that day. I'll get to the vow at the end because the vow is, I got it wrong. I'm Dale Dixon, and this is the Presence Lab, where we work on the skill underneath the skill. You know, most communication training teaches you what to say. Here we teach your nervous system how to let you say it. I've spent more than 20 years coaching leaders through the moments that actually matter, and I wrote a book called Sweating Bullets about what happens to a person inside those moments. So a few weeks ago, I read a piece by Michael Easter in his newsletter, and I want to credit him by name because it really cracked something open for me. Easter went to the Boulder Outdoor Survival School out on the Colorado Plateau. They take a small group into the desert and teach them to live off the land for as long as 4 weeks with the clothes that they're wearing. Literally, it's a wool blanket, a poncho, a water bottle, a knife, and a steel cup. No tent, no sleeping bag. And one of their instructors, it's a man, Jay Carson, told Easter what the school has watched happen for decades. The people who struggle most, the ones who fail at a rate that surprises everybody, are often the elite operators. Think about it. Navy SEALs, Special Forces, the people trained to control every variable. The ones who finish strong are the unassuming ones. And Carson's example is a middle school principal in her 50s who handles whatever the day throws at her with no thought that she can control it. She just navigates it. She crosses a course where an operator comes apart because the instructor won't tell how long the hike is. Now, Easter is careful to say that's what the instructors have observed over decades and not a formal study. I'm going to be just as careful with it. But it did stop me cold because I've lived the other side of it on a stage in front of 1,000 kids with a dead Dell computer behind me. Here's what we're taking apart today. The belief that if you just prepare hard enough, you can control your way to safety. We're going to look at why that belief fails a leader at the exact moment they need it most, at what the researchers have actually found underneath it. And I'm going to hand you 3 tools you can run the next time your version of that blue screen shows up. There's a field guide that holds all 3 plus the training drill, and you can grab it at daledixon.me/grip. Now, I completely understand the pull toward control. We're wired for it. Tony Robbins lays out an idea that I find useful here. I'll name it as his. It's a framework. It's not a lab study. Robbins argues that we all carry 6 human needs, and the very first one is certainty. The need to feel safe, to know what's coming next, to avoid the pain of the unknown. That need is not a weakness. It's a survival mechanism doing exactly the job it was built to do. Think about how many boards demand a bulletproof revenue projection for the quarter. That's the certainty need. Wearing a suit and it's sitting right there in the table. So the trouble is certainty is only the first of the 6. Right next to it, Robbins puts uncertainty, the need for variety, for the new, for the unknown. Here's the part that matters for anyone trying to lead. Growth lives in the second one. Nobody's ever grown inside a situation they had completely under control. The skill a leader actually needs isn't more certainty, it's the flexibility to move before the certainty arrives. Comfort's a state we sit around waiting for. Flexibility is a capacity we build on purpose. Your blue screen is coming, I promise. It's just not going to look like mine. It's the product demo that freezes in the client meeting. It's the question from the board you could not have scripted. It's the reorg that gets announced in the middle of your town hall while you're still holding the old slides. It's the number that comes in wrong the morning of the review and an hour before you present. In every one of those, the plan you walked in with is suddenly gone and the room is still looking at you. That's the moment. That is your dead Dell computer. So here's what happens inside the body when the plan disappears. Our system looks around that room and asks just one question, the only question it's ever really cared about. Do I have what it takes to survive this? When the answer feels like no, the grip tightens, and I mean that literally. Grab the edge of a lectern when you're nervous, and the whole system clamps down. The breathing climbs high and shallow into the chest. The shoulders come up. The voice goes tight and thin. The cruel part is that the grip makes all of it worse. That's true of the body, and it's true of the room. Grab a steering wheel white-knuckled in a skid, and you lose the car. Squeeze a handful of sand, and it runs out faster. Hold anything too tightly, and it fights back because nothing on this earth likes being held tightly, which means the control isn't the safety, it's the fragility. The tighter we grip the plan, the less we can do the second the plan gets taken. The researchers have names for both sides of this, and they're worth knowing. Stephen Hayes, a psychologist behind acceptance and commitment therapy, describes psychological inflexibility as being locked into one fixed way of thinking and behaving, running the same play even after the situation has changed and the play stopped working. Richard Sorrentino spent a career on what he called certainty orientation, the preference for a clear plan, known outcomes, and no surprises. Neither one of those is a character flaw, and this is where I want to be careful. Control-based coping works beautifully. It works right up until control isn't available, and that's when it turns on us. So, 2 flips sit on the other side. Psychological flexibility is the ability to pivot and switch strategies as events shift. Uncertainty orientation is what it looks like when the unknown reads as interesting instead of threatening. So ambiguity sends a person looking for another plan instead of shutting them down. Here's the honest caveat. Neither style wins across the board. Hand a certainty-oriented person a perfect plan with no curveballs, they'll outperform everybody in the room. The advantage only flips when the plan does. That's the thing about leadership, though. The plan flips constantly. The military has decided this is worth taking seriously. There's a randomized trial running right now With about 600 soldiers, people deployed into high-risk places on a regular basis. Everybody in the study gets the standard resilience training. One group gets 2 extra days on how to meet a challenge without reaching for rigid control. Now, the results aren't in yet, so I'm not going to tell you what it proves. I'll tell you what they named the Day 2 module. Rigidity as the problem. When the toughest institution we have starts teaching its people that the grip is the liability, we should probably take a hint. That's the whole thing today, and that's why I call this the grip. John Maxwell has a leadership law he calls the law of sacrifice, and he says it plainly: a leader must give up to go up. Love that line. Maxwell is talking about the sacrifices that come with rising. The time, the freedom, the comfort you trade for responsibility. I'm going to borrow his words and stretch them past what he meant. I'm telling you I'll do it. I'm doing it because credit belongs where it belongs. To go up, we have to give up the grip. A loose hand wins. It wins in the body, where the loose hand settles the breathing and frees the voice. It wins in the room, where the loose hand can catch whatever gets thrown because it isn't already full. And I wrote about this before I fully understood it. The very first scene of my book opens on a man named Mac standing at a podium, gripping the sides of it, white-knuckled, because he knows the second he lets go, his hands are going to shake. That grip isn't holding him up. That grip is the thing giving him away. 3 moves. The field guide at daledixon.me/grip lays them out with the training drill. Tool number 1, fix the goal, flex the route. This is for the moment the plan falls apart mid-room. The move is to lock on to the one thing nobody can take from us: the audience getting where they need to go. So in Sweating Bullets, I call this audience first, and it's the entire reason a dead computer did not end that keynote I was giving. On that stage, I couldn't blame the tech. I couldn't make things up, and I'd invested real time in knowing those kids. So losing them was never on the table. When we walk in aiming to make the audience the hero, we've got a destination nobody can take from us. And a dead computer just means we find another road to the same place. It's going to sound like this, said quietly to yourself while the room waits. They still need to leave with the 3 things. The deck was one way to get them there. The slide deck was one route. It was never the point. Tool number 2, name it, then move on. This is for when everybody in the room already sees the problem. No elephants. 1 beat and 1 beat only. It's going to sound like this for you. The demo's down. Here's what it would have shown you. And here's the part I want you to walk out with. We don't apologize, and we don't pretend the blue screen isn't blue. We call it, we handle it, we keep serving. And we do not blame anybody for the blue screen. Tool number 3, build the floor and then let go. This is a bit of a backup plan. And this one happens before we ever walk into the room, and it's the one I got wrong that day. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait, hold on, Dale. You just spent this whole episode telling me I can't control my way to safety, and now you want me to build a contingency plan? Fair enough. Here's the difference. Wargaming every possible liability is the grip, just wearing a different outfit. It's going to drain us before we ever hit the stage. Building one simple floor is a different move. If the video dies, kill the screen and tell the story. That's it. One fallback decided in advance, and it frees us to improvise everything else without panic. The floor isn't a cage. The floor is the thing that lets us go and get out of the cage. Sounds like this, written down before you walk in. One sentence. If this breaks, I do this. And the crew that day was scheduled back to back with no time to test the equipment, and I had no floor built, so I was improvising from zero. I closed that event out on instinct alone. I tell you, I have practiced and taught the floor ever since. Flexibility like that is not a personality, it's trained. And here's how I train it now. 3 to 4 times a week, I get into a cold plunge. Water cold enough, my body begs me to get out. And I stay in anyway on purpose, not because I love it. I do it so my brain gets one more rep at a simple, uncomfortable truth. I do not have to be comfortable to function. Easter calls the bigger version of this a chosen challenge, a hard thing we pick so we're ready for the hard things we don't pick. Robbins, for what it's worth, cold plunges on a regular basis, feeding that same need for the unknown before the day even starts. Jay Carson, this is where it gets real, lived the payoff for that. And it's the part of Easter's piece that just really hit home. Carson's house burned down in the Los Angeles fires. Every plan he had gone in a night. He calls it the hardest year of his life. Brutal on his marriage, his kids, his work, his finances. What he found in the middle of it was that he could still function because he'd been stripped down before on purpose out in that desert with a blanket and a knife. He knew how to work with what he still had instead of grieving what was gone. He'd been there in a situation he chose, and it carried him through one he never would have. That's the argument for the cold plunge. That's the argument for whatever your version turns out to be. Come back now to the detail that I asked you to hold. I don't remember most of that talk. That is not a gap in the story. That's the evidence. The gripping, controlling, deck-driving version of me went quiet, and the trained version took over and ran the room below the level of thought. The blackout is the proof that the capacity was already installed. Here's the part that still gets me. That talk with no slides, no video, just me and 1,000 kids and a stack of stories probably landed better than a reel of 15-second clips ever would have. The control that I built wasn't protecting the presentation, it was capping it. Losing it set the whole room free. Which brings me to the vow. I did walk off that stage with a lesson, and it was the wrong one. I swore right then that I would never, ever let a Dell computer touch one of my presentations. I know. The real reason was never about the hardware. The open hand is what saved me that day, and the open hand is the thing I should have been training all along. There's one more line I keep thinking about, and it belongs to those instructors in the desert. When a student asks how far they're hiking, or how long the day runs, or what happens next, the answer is always the same 2 words. We'll see. Every leader I can think of would find that so hard to deal with. And every leader I know is going to get it anyway. Picture the leader you know who's white-knuckling right now, the one demanding the bulletproof projection, rewriting the deck for the 9th time, gripping the plan so hard their knuckles have gone white, convinced that if they can just control enough of it, they'll finally feel ready. Everything we cover today is in the field guide, and it's called The Grip. 1 page to find where you're gripping, the 3 tools with a drill, and a 7-day tracker so this gets into your hands and not just your head. It's free. Go grab it. daledixon.me/grip. It means so much if you like, subscribe, and share this episode. And if today put a name to something that you've felt on a stage, in a boardroom, in the moment the plan fell apart, that conversation keeps going inside the Presence Lab community on Sphere, where I actually hang out. It's free, and you can join at daledixon.me/community. You don't get to be certain about the room. You only get to be certain you can handle it. That's the trade, and it's the whole game a leader is actually playing. The one thing worth holding tight is your ability to let go. One question on your way out. When the screen goes blue, oh, and it will, can you let go long enough? I'm Dale Dixon. This is the Presence Lab podcast. I'll see you next time.